angles. In this session, we are going to learn about pairs of angles. Okay. Now, when we say pairs of angles, what we mean is we are going to learn about the properties of two angles together. Okay. Here we are talking about two angles, so properties will be of the two angles. Okay. So the first pair of angles that we are going to learn is complementary angles. Check the spelling. Complementary angles. So what are these complementary angles? So two angles are said to be complementary angles, or two angles are said to be complement to each other if their sum is 90 degrees. I hope you understood. If you have two angles and if their sum is 90 degrees, then such angles or the pair of them is called complementary pair of angles. Okay. Now, look at this diagram. Here, you have two angles. One is angle A, the other one is angle B. Now, angle A plus angle B is 90 degrees. So, we say angle A, that is this angle, and angle B, that is this angle. They are called complementary angles. So, complementary angles can be together, that is next to each other as so, or they can be two separate angles like this. Here we have two separate angles. This is angle 1 and this is angle 2. Together they are forming complementary pair of angles. So the first angle is 40 degrees. The second angle is 50 degrees. What is the total? It is 90 degrees. Okay. Such pair of angles is called complementary angles. Can you think of a pair of angles where the sum is 90 degrees? I'm sure you all can think of that. Is it not? Can you? What about 30 degrees? What do you think is the complement of 30 degrees? Yes, children, it is 60 degrees. So, 30 degrees, if it is the measure of one angle, then its complement will be 60 degrees. What about 10 degrees? What is the complementary pair of 10 degrees? It is clearly 80 degrees, is it not? So here I have given you some examples. You can check. If the total is 90 degrees, if the sum of the pair of angles is 90 degrees, if they add up to 90 degrees, then such angles are called complementary angles. Okay, here we have examples as 60 and 30, total is 90 degrees. 25 and 65, total is 90 degrees. So all these angles, they form complementary pairs. Okay, so 60 and 30 complementary, 25 and 65 how do we know that? If we add them, we should get total as 90 degrees. Only then we can call them complementary pair of complementary angles. Children, I hope you understood that. Okay, now let's move on. Here we have these angles where I have summed them up and seen that the total is 90 degrees. So in this case, 60 degrees plus 30 degrees is 90, 25 degrees plus 65 degrees is 90, and so on. We can also say 60 degrees is the complement of 30 degrees. 65 degrees is complement of 25 degrees. 55 degrees is the complement of 35 degrees, and so on. You can think of many more such examples. Okay. Now, I am going to give you pair of angles here. You have to check whether they are complementary or not. Okay? Yeah. So you can see I have drawn two angles. Now let's see what their measure is. So the first pair and the second pair. Okay, because we are comparing always two angles. So we say pair of angles. So in the first pair, the angles are 40 degrees and 50 degrees. In the second case, the angles measure 72 degrees and 22 degrees. Okay, now which pair do you think forms complementary pair? Yes, children, clearly 40 plus 50 is 90 degrees. Is it not? What about 72 plus 22? How much is that? It is 94 degrees. So, we can say that 40 and 50 are a complementary pair of angles, but 72 and 22 degrees are clearly not complementary. Is that clear? So, we say the first pair of angles is complementary pair, but the second one is not complementary. Is that clear? Okay. So, shall we move on? Next, let's see what this activity is all about. Answer the following questions and state the reason. What are the questions? Can two acute angles be complementary to each other? Children, think and answer. Can two acute angles be complementary? In the previous session, you have learned what acute angle is, what obtuse is, what straight, reflex, all these angles now you know by heart. Okay, now you tell me, now that you know what a complementary pair is, please think and answer these questions. Can two acute angles be complementary to each other? Acute means both the angles must be, yes, less than 90 degrees. You all agree? So, we have to think of two angles which both are acute, but their sum should be 90 degrees. Please think and start writing down. The next question is, can two right angles be complementary to each other? Can two right angles, what is a right angle? A right angle means an angle which is exactly 90 degrees. Yes or no? Angle which is exactly 90 degrees is called a right angle. The third question is, can two obtuse angles be complementary to each other? What is an obtuse angle? It is greater than 90 degrees. Now think, if you have two angles both less than 90 degrees, will the sum, can you think of such angles where the sum will be equal to 90 degrees? Okay, I am sure all of you have come up with such angles. For example, let us take 45 and 45. 45 and 45 are in fact special. Why? 45 degrees plus 45 degrees adds up to 90 degrees. You all agree? Is it not? So, here in this case, the complement of 45 is 45. So, they are equal angles whose sum is complementary. That is, whose sum is 90 degrees. Okay. In this case, both are not only equal, but both are acute. Okay. Now, let us see some examples. Answers. Yes, two acute angles can be complementary to each other. Like so. See, all these are children. You can see all the examples that I've given here. Pair, each pair together, the angle adds up, the angles add up to 90 degrees. Second one, no, we cannot have two right angles as complementary to each other because the sum of two angles will be more than 90 degrees. The sum of two angles should be exactly 90 degrees for them to be called as complementary angles. But here clearly the sum is more than 90 degrees because each right angle measures 90 degrees and together the sum becomes 180. So they are definitely not complementary angles. Okay. Third one, can two obtuse angles be complementary? So each obtuse angle is already more than 90 degrees. So here we have taken an example. So 120 degrees I have taken an example, and 100 degrees adds up to 220 degrees. But clearly our sum should be exactly 90 degrees. So both these cases it is not possible. Okay children, so in this activity the first question is a complementary pair. We can have a complementary pair, but in the next two we cannot, because it does not satisfy the condition required for the angles to be called complementary angles. Is that clear? Okay. Now let us see what the next pair of angles are. Now you learned what complementary angles are. The next pair of angles, it is called supplementary angles. That means we are talking about two angles which are supplementary. But what do we mean by supplementary? Let us see. So, two angles are called supplementary if their sum adds up to 180 degrees. In case of complementary angles, two angles are called complementary angles if their sum is 90 degrees. You all remember? Now, two angles are called supplementary angles if their sum, if you add up those two angles, if they add up to 180 degrees, then such angles are called supplementary angles. Children, I hope it's clear. So, two angles are called supplementary angles if their sum is 180 degrees. Okay, so each angle of the pair is said to be the supplement of the other. In the previous case, complement of the other. Here we say each angle of the pair is said to be supplement of the other. So I have given you examples here. As you can see, 90 and 90. 90 plus 90 adds up to 180 degrees, is it not? What about 120 and 60? Yes, again they add up to 180 degrees. So all these pairs mentioned here, they are all called supplementary angles, and each angle is the supplement of the other. Like 90 is the supplement of 90 degrees. 120 degrees is the supplement of 60 degrees, or the other way, and 145 degrees is the supplement of 35 degrees. Okay children? Okay. So, you can see the figures. I have drawn two supplementary angles. One is 60 degrees. The other one is 120 degrees. So, what do you get when you add these two angles? So, clearly 60 plus 120 degrees equals 180 degrees. Is it not? So we say these two angles are supplementary angles. You can even name them like angle A, B, C and angle X, Y, Z. Okay. So we say angle ABC, angle ABC plus angle X, Y, Z equals 180 degrees. Is it not? Here angle ABC is clearly 60 degrees, angle XYZ is 120 degrees. So together they form supplementary angles. Okay. So now one more example is 130 degrees and yes, the other example is 130 degrees and 50 degrees. Again, they form a supplementary angle pair. Okay. Now, let's see what the activity is. Answer the following questions and state your reason. Can two obtuse angles be supplementary to each other? Can two right angles be supplementary to each other? Can two acute angles be supplementary to each other? Children, again, think and answer the questions. Two obtuse angles. So, first of all, make sure that you know the definition of supplementary angles. What is the definition? Together, the angle should add up to 180 degrees only. Is it not? So, two obtuse angles means greater than 90. So, already one is greater than 90 and you have one more greater than 90. Okay, so if you add two obtuse angles, even if you take just 91 degrees plus 91 degrees. 90 and 90 is right. 91 and 91 again obtuse because greater than 90 and less than 180 degrees. Now add up. What do you get? You get 182 degrees. So can you call 91 degrees and 91 degrees as supplementary pair? Clearly not. Is it not? So we cannot have two obtuse angles as supplementary pair. Can two right angles be supplementary? Yes, definitely, because 90 degrees plus 90 degrees. This is a supplementary pair where the supplement of one is equal to the other, means a pair of supplementary angles which are equal to each other. So that sum adds up to 180 degrees. Now, coming to two acute angles. So, acute angles is, each angle is less than 90 degrees. So, let me take, say, 89 degrees. This is acute, is it not? Between 0 and 90 degrees. I have taken one acute angle. Let me take one more acute angle, say 70. Now, let's add up. What is the total? 9 and 15. So the total adds up to 159 degrees. Again, you cannot call them a supplementary pair, children. So I hope you understood what a supplementary angle is and when you can call a pair of angles as supplementary angles. Okay, now clearly answer the questions. The answers are: no, the sum of two supplementary angles is more than 180 degrees. So, we cannot call them supplementary pair. So, I have given examples. As you all can see, the sum of two right angles is equal to 180 degrees. So, you can call them a supplementary pair. But here, we cannot call them supplementary pair. Here also, it falls short of 180 degrees in this case. In this case, it's more than 180 degrees. In the third case, see here, the total adds up to more than 180 degrees. In this case, it adds up to less than 180 degrees. Okay, so in both the first and the second case, you cannot call them supplementary pair. But first and the third, you can't call them supplementary. But the second case, definitely you can call them a supplementary pair of angles. Okay, children, let's move on. Adjacent angles. Now, what are adjacent angles? I think last year you have learned what the definition is. Now, think of two rooms next to each other. Okay, next to each other. Think of two classrooms which are next to each other. So, between the two rooms, what is common? Can you think? Yes, between two rooms, a wall is common. Yes or no? A wall is common between two rooms. So we say such rooms which have one wall, a common between them, as adjacent rooms. Okay, that's fine. But what are adjacent angles? Let's see. Two angles are called adjacent angles if they have, I hope you're all listening, if they have a common vertex and a common ray. Okay, let me show you. Now I'm drawing one angle. I'm drawing one more angle. Now I have two angles. Okay, I'll call this first angle as, say, A, B and C. These are rays, children. You remember? These are rays. and the second angle I'll call them as CBD. So I have one angle here and the second angle here. Now, angle ABC is adjacent to angle CBD because they have a common vertex. Can you all see? They have a common vertex, and the ray, in the previous example we said one wall is common between the two rooms. Here, this ray BC is common between the two angles 1 and 2. Such angles are called adjacent angles. We say angle ABC is adjacent to angle CBD. Children, I hope you understood what the definition is. Okay, how do you define this? Two angles are called adjacent angles if they have a common vertex and they share a common arm, or common ray. Did you understand? Okay, let us see how to define this. Two angles are said to be adjacent to each other if they have a common vertex and a common arm. Arm means ray. Arm here means ray. So two angles are called adjacent angles if they have a common vertex and a common arm. Okay, now let us draw and see what the adjacent angles are. Children, here you understood. The common vertex in this case is O. Common vertex is O and common arm is this arm. You can see this arm. Okay, this is the common arm. Okay, so the angles are angle 1 and angle 2. So these angles are called adjacent angles because they have a common vertex O and common arm, let us call it OB. Okay, between the two angles, OB is common ray and O is the common vertex. Okay, now in the given figure, angle AOB and angle BOC are adjacent angles. O is the common vertex and OB is the common ray. Children, I hope it's clear. You have learned what complementary angles are, what supplementary angles are, and what adjacent angles are. I hope the definition is clear. Complementary angles, the sum should add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles, the sum of the angles should be 180 degrees, and adjacent angles are two angles which have a common vertex and a common arm or common ray. Okay, I hope so far it's clear. Let's move on. Mention the adjacent angles in the figure. Now, where is the figure? Your figure is here. Let us label them as angle MON and angle NOP. Okay. Now, can you think of the adjacent angles here? We have two adjacent angles because they have a common vertex and a common arm. This is the common vertex, children. O is the common vertex and this is your common arm. Okay. So, since both the angles have the same vertex and they share one arm, definitely angle MON and angle NOP are adjacent angles. Okay, that is angle MON and that is angle NOP. They are adjacent angles. Okay, next. What is the next pair of angles? Let us see. Before that, let us see what this activity is all about. Now, are the angles marked 1 and 2 adjacent? If so, mention the common vertex and the common arm. Okay, now these are the figures. We have figure A, that is angle 1, that is angle 2. Now let us see what the second figure is. That is B. Second figure is B. You have angle 1 and angle 2. You have one more figure coming up. Again you have two angles here. Okay. That is angle 1 and that is angle 2. Now you decide which two angles are, in which figure you have adjacent angles and which figure does not have adjacent angles and why. Okay. Yeah. Think and tell me, children. Okay. What is the condition required for adjacent angles? Now you are very clear. They should have a common vertex. Yes, we have a common vertex. They also should have common arm. Yes, we have a common arm. So I can say figure A, it has adjacent pair of angles. Do you all agree? Yeah. In the second pair again, you can see this is the common vertex for the two angles. And for angle 1 and angle 2, this is the common ray. Again, this figure also has two adjacent angles. Now coming to figure 3. In figure 3, we cannot call them adjacent angles. We can't call 1 and 2 as adjacent angles because though they have the same ray, common ray, what is lacking, what is missing here? Which condition is missing here? Can you tell me? Yes? Yeah, you can all see that they do not share common vertex. They have two different vertices. So this pair of angles, we cannot call them as adjacent angles. Children, I hope it's clear. Okay, now let's see. I have named them as angle A, B, C and M. Here I have named them as P, Q, R and S. And here you can see them. Okay, so in the first case angle ABM and angle MBC are adjacent. The second case angle PQS and angle SQR are adjacent. But in the third case angle AED and DBC or EBC, they are not adjacent angles. Clear, children? So B is common vertex and BM is the common arm. So the angles 1 and 2 are adjacent in the first case. In the second case, you can see the reason. Again, Q is common, QS is common ray, so they are adjacent. In the third case, they are not adjacent because they do not have a common vertex, though they have a common arm. Clear, children? Okay. Moving on. Linear pair of angles. Now the fourth pair of angles is linear pair of angles. Now you all remember what supplementary angles are, children? You all remember, is it not? The angles whose sum adds up to 180 degrees are supplementary pair. Now what are this linear pair? All of you know linear means straight line. Is it not? Now, if two adjacent angles, let us say, if two adjacent angles measure up to 180 degrees, then these two pairs are called linear pair of angles. Now you might ask, what is the difference between supplementary pair and linear pair? In supplementary pair, the angles need not be adjacent. I can call, let me take one more rough diagram. If this is 70 and suppose let me say this is 110, that is 110 degrees. Yes, these two are called supplementary pair. Okay. But remember, they are not adjacent. Children, please bear in mind. These are supplementary, no doubt, because sum is 180 degrees, but they are not adjacent. What is adjacent? They have to share one vertex and a common arm, is it not? So, if two supplementary angles are adjacent to each other, like so, then we call them linear pair. Children, again, let me repeat. Two supplementary angles, which are adjacent, form a linear pair. I hope that's clear. Let's define. Two adjacent angles are said to be linear pair of angles if their sum is 180 degrees. Their non-common rays are opposite to each other and form a straight line. What do we mean by that? Here in this example, what did we say? This is 70 degrees and this is 110 degrees. Is it not? Fine. Now here this is the common ray, children. This is the common ray. But this and this are non-common rays. They are opposite to each other and they form a straight line. Clear? Such angles are called linear pair of angles. Such angles which are supplementary, also which are adjacent, are called linear pair of angles. Okay. Now, here you can see a linear pair. They are not only supplementary, but they have a common vertex and common arm. So, they are next to each other. These two angles are adjacent angles, and because their sum is 180 degrees, they form a linear pair. Clear? They form a linear pair. So, angle ABO and angle OBC are adjacent angles. So, angle ABO and angle CBO equals 180 degrees, and BA and BC are opposite to each other. What did we say? They are non-common rays. Common rays OB, non-common rays are BA and BC. They are opposite to each other and form a straight line, children. Okay, fine. Now, one more example. We have one activity here. Now let's see what the activity is. The angles in figure 1 do not form a linear pair because 80 plus 110 degrees is 190 degrees. So this pair, in this figure, these two angles, that is 80 degrees and 110 degrees, though they are adjacent angles, the angles measure 80 degrees and 110 degrees, and the sum is 190 degrees, so they do not form a linear pair. In the second examples, one angle, though they are adjacent, one angle is 50 degrees, the other angle is 40 degrees, so they do not form a linear pair. In the third example, one angle is 115 degrees and its adjacent angle is 65 degrees and the total is 180 degrees, so they form a linear pair of angles. Children, I hope this is clear to you. Now, vertically opposite angles. When two lines intersect at a common point, the angles facing each other are called vertically opposite angles. So, two pairs of vertically opposite angles are formed and they are always equal. What do we mean by that, children? Now, these two lines PQ and RS are intersecting lines. Okay, when they intersect, they have a common point here, as you all can see. So, two pairs of vertically opposite angles are formed. This is one angle B and angle A. These two are vertically opposite and they are always equal. Which is the other pair of vertically opposite angles? It is this angle N, angle M, and again they are equal. So when two lines intersect, two pairs of vertically opposite angles, as you all can see, are formed and each pair is equal. Okay. That is, angle B is equal to angle A and angle M is equal to angle N. That means, suppose this angle measures say 130 degrees and this angle will also measure 130 degrees. Then what will be the measure of this angle, children? It's going to be 30 degrees, is it not? Because it's a straight line. Naturally, this is also 30 degrees and total at this angle at the center, it's called a complete angle, is it not? Angle, this is 50 degrees, children. So this 180 plus 180 is 360 degrees. I hope you understood what vertically opposite angles are. Okay, what are vertically opposite angles? Two angles are called vertically opposite angles when they are formed by two pairs of, that is, one pair of intersecting line. The lines intersect at one common point. Okay, you can see one more example there. 145 plus 35 is 180 degrees and 145, its vertically opposite pair. See here, this is 145, vertically opposite angle. These two are vertically opposite, is it not? These two, that is this angle and this angle, are vertically opposite. Similarly, this angle and this angle are vertically opposite. Clear, children? Okay, so angle B is equal to angle A and angle M is equal to angle N. Vertically opposite angles are always equal. Okay, here I have given the labeling. You can see and check it out and write. Activity, children. You have a figure here, two straight lines and one ray. I have labeled the lines as AB and CD. They are intersecting at point O, and from O there is a ray OE. Okay, let's see what the questions are. In the given figure, name adjacent angles, vertically opposite angles and linear pair of angles. And one more activity is, two figures are given to you. Check them. Try to identify what pair of angles they are. You have learned just now, complementary, supplementary, linear pair and vertically opposite. Try to identify which type of pairs of angles they are and just mention the difference between them. Now the answers. Adjacent angles, you have angles AOC and COE, is it not? Can you identify, children? Angle AOC and adjacent to that is angle COE. So they share a common vertex O and a common ray OC, is it not? So the next pair is angle COE and adjacent to that is angle EOB. Okay, I hope you can identify. And then vertically opposite. So similarly, you have many more adjacent pairs there. I'm sure you can identify. You can write any two pairs, children. Vertically opposite angles are angle COB and angle AOD. I think you can identify them. And then one more pair is there. That is angle AOC and DOB. They are acute and the other one is obtuse. Okay, if one pair of vertically opposite angles is acute, the other pair will definitely be obtuse, these two. Okay, then you have linear pair of angles, angle AOC and angle COB. I think you can identify. And one more, you have angle AOD and angle DOB. They form a linear pair of angles. Okay, AOD and DOB. So mention the difference between the figures. As you all can see, here we have, can you identify? They are complementary angles. These two form complementary angles because their sum is 90 degrees. But these are non-adjacent because they do not share a common vertex nor they share a common ray. They have two different vertices and they do not share any arm common. So they are non-adjacent but complementary pair. These are adjacent and complementary pair. So that's the difference. Okay, so the difference between these two angles is both are complementary, no doubt, but the first case we have non-adjacent complementary pair, and the second case we have adjacent complementary angles. Okay children, I'll give you your assignment in the form of a PDF worksheet. So it will come along with the video and also the PDF notes. Please make the notes very well and then do the assignment. Okay children, I hope you understood all the pair of angles that we have learned today. So I'm sure you will answer well.